Uh, hey guys, can you see me and can you hear me? I'm just trying this new I think new live class page. Okay. Okay, so I think I'll switch back to the hey everyone. Can you see me now and can you hear me now? Okay, fine. Awesome. So good morning. Um, Hi Shiva, Abhay, Tim, Melaku, Krishna Veni, Dolly, okay, Divya, Yuan, Babesh, Sandrine, Adam. Okay, so good to see you all. Now, okay, so let's just wait for a couple of minutes more. Okay, let's let others join. I see we have 48 learners here. So I'm just trying out this new interface. So hopefully this is better. It's literally past midnight here. Yeah, so I understand Divya. So difficult to manage, basically difficult to. I think someone had messaged me the other day, I think in LinkedIn or something, if the globe was like flat, right? If everyone had the same timestamp, then it would be good. But I think whenever I do a class, someone or the other has to basically has a will have a weird timing. So cannot really help. So currently, I'm in Malaysia, so I have this time zone. Hopefully, when I'm going to be conducting my next class, I will be in a different time zone. So then I don't know what timing I'll come up with. So let's see. Uh, you guys can add me on LinkedIn, no problem. So I have a lot of good connections who are in the field of data analytics, etc. So maybe you can benefit from my connections. Uh, okay, so if you have missed classes, you can catch up using recording. More importantly, there were some assignments given in the last two, three classes. These assignments were not very basic queries, but I would say intermediate to slightly complex queries. So if you are able to solve those, then fantastic. If you're not able to solve it, then also okay. The intention is not that you need to get a solution. The intention is that you need to have the right thinking to solve the problems. Okay. If you're not able to solve it, you can listen, you can see my solution, and then you can try it yourself. Because you're just learning, right? You cannot expect yourself to be solving all intermediate and complex queries. Okay, but your thinking needs to be right. You at least need to get an idea of what concept you can use to solve a particular problem. If you can get that, then I think you're in the right track. Okay, but if you don't get any idea, looking at the question, you have no idea where to start, what to do, then that's a problem. Okay, so okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's start. So in today's class, right, I'm going to do a couple of things. First thing, in window functions, I think we covered rank, row number, dense rank, and lead lag functions, right? So I'm going to be covering three other important window functions: last value, first value, and nth value. So I think these three and the four covered. How many we covered? Five covered previously. So these eight window functions, I think, are the ones which are very frequently used. Okay. Then there are three more window functions like cum dist, percent rank, and entile. They are not that widely used. Okay. So I'm not going to be explaining them in this class. Okay. But I can share with you some queries. Also, I have made a YouTube video on those functions. You can maybe watch that. Okay. Uh, and then after I cover, and also I want to cover the frame clause today. I'll tell you what it is and what is it used for. We'll see some examples, and then I want to take up the assignments, okay, that I gave you in the last few classes. You guys tell me which assignment you want me to solve. Okay, whatever assignment queries that you want me to solve, I'll take up only those. Okay, because I think there were six or seven queries. I'm not sure if we'll have time to cover everything, but whatever you guys want me to solve, you tell me, I will solve it. Okay. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so just let me know once you're able to see my screen, okay? So all these window functions, right? They are all part of every RDBMS. I think except for this one window function, I don't remember which one. I think it is percent rank. Probably it's not supported in one of the RDBMS. But in general, window functions are always, all the window functions are supported in all the RDBMS. And the best part is the syntax is also the same. The logic also is the same. So no matter which RDBMS, it's all the same. Okay. So I'm going to start with something called as, okay, so first value, last value, and nth value. Okay. Now, in order to explain this, I need a table. So select star from product or products. I think I don't have the table. Let me create this table. Hmm. So the table is created. And now let's say you have a requirement. So I think we covered until query 6. So let's say you have, okay, so maybe I'll put this in the top. Okay. So let's say you have a requirement, something like this. Okay. We need to write a query to display the most expensive products under each category. Okay. So, and they are telling that we need to display this corresponding to each record. Okay. Now, one of the big difference between a group by and a window function, what I mentioned was, when you do a group by, uh, you create one record for each group. So basically the number of records in your table may reduce, right? But when it comes to a window function, even though window function, inside window function we do a partition by, and partition by kind of like, you can say that it's not a group by but something similar to, right? It creates it creates one window for each distinct value that you have mentioned in your partition by clause, right? But the best part about window function is it does not reduce the number of records. Okay, whatever number of records are there, it is already returned. Okay, it will always be written. So you don't lose any number of records. Okay, and let's say you have been given a question where sometimes what happens is you might be able to solve a problem either using a group by or by using a window function. Okay, and in such cases, most of the times what they do is they kind of mention a statement. Here the statement is pretty clear. In some questions, the statement not may not be very clear. It might be a tricky thing that they have mentioned, that you need to present every record from the table should be presented. Okay, in that case, it's an indication that you need to be using window function, because window function does not reduce the number of records. Okay, so that is what is mentioned here. Now, along with that, we need to display the most expensive product under each category. Okay, now let's query this table. So I have a product table. Okay, and you can see that in this product table I have some 27 records, and you can see that I have some records related to phones. Okay, so I have a product category column, okay, which basically are different types of products. So you have phone, laptop, earphone, headphone, etc. Okay, and then which brand each of this product belong to, and what is the product name. Okay, so I have iPhone 12 Pro Max, which belongs to Apple. I have iPhone 12 Pro, which belongs to again Apple, etc. Then the price of this product. Okay, so I have only these four columns. Now, what I have been asked to do is I need to write a query to display the most expensive product under each category. Okay, so I need to scan through this table, and I need to go through all the phone, and out of all these phones, I need to see which is the most expensive phone, and I need to basically display that phone name, okay, in the new column. Okay, so I hope that is clear, the requirement. Now, the simplest way of doing this is by using a window function. Okay, so let's see how we can do this. So I already have this select star from product. Okay, and I told you we are looking at something called as a first value, right? Now, we have seen what rank does. Rank will basically assign a unique rank based on whatever order by that you have mentioned, right? And then we have dense rank, also similar to that. Just the value gets skipped in rank if there are duplicate ranks given for a particular value, right? But when it comes to row number, it does not bother about the order by. For every record that is returned, it assigns a unique row number starting from one, right? Then we saw lead and lag, which basically lead can look at the preceding records, that is the next records, maybe one record after the current record, or multiple records after the current record. It can look, that is lead. Lag kind of does the opposite. It can look for the previous record values, right? So this is what these five functions does. Now, when it comes to first value, what it will do is, within your window, whatever is the first record, okay, from that record, if you want to fetch any value from any column, you can do that by using first value. Okay, so for example, in this case, what I want to do is, I have multiple different categories, right? And I need to find right, most expensive product under each category. Okay, so for each category, I want to find what is the most expensive product, right? So under phone, just by looking at this, so let's say if I manually look at this. Okay, and if I just select phone, I can see that the most expensive phone that I have here is 1000. So I have this 1800, right? This 1800 belongs to Galaxy Z Fold 3. Okay, and so basically what I need to do is, I need to partition, or basically create a window for each category. So there will be one window created for phone, another window created for laptop, and so on and so forth, right? And then under each of this window, I need to sort the data based on the price, such that the one with the highest price will be at the top. Okay, so in order to create the window, I can use the partition by clause, and then in order to sort the data based on the highest price, I can use the order by clause. Okay, and I need to use both of this within the over clause of a particular window function. Okay, so once I have done that, then I can tell that under each category, the very first record is going to hold the product which is the most expensive, right? And then from there, I can just fetch the product name. Okay, so let's try to do that. First of all, I will use in order to fetch the value from the very first record of my partition, I'll just say first value. Okay, that's what this name stands for. Okay, and then here I need to provide a column name. Okay, so from first value basically means fetch the value from the very first record in your window, in each window. Okay, and in each window, because here I have four columns, you can fetch any column value that you want. Okay, so let's say I want to fetch the product name. Okay, so I'll just tell product name. Okay, and then I need to use the over clause, and here I told you we need to create a partition for each. We need to create a partition, or we need to create a window for each product category. So I can just tell partition by product category. Okay, and then I need to sort the data such that the one with the highest price is at the top. So I'll tell order by price in descending order. Okay, and I think this one will basically be my max. I can just tell what was the question for most expensive, right? Okay, so I can just tell most expensive product. Okay, if I run this, I'm getting an error. So okay, so I missed a comma. Now let me run this. Okay, so now you can see that under, so let's say under earphone category, if I see here 280 is the max, 280 belongs to AirPods Pro. So AirPods Pro is printed and corresponding to every record, right? And here it's telling under this category, AirPods Pro is the most expensive product. Okay, when I come to headphones, it can see that the AirPods Max with 550 price of 550 is the most expensive product. So it's displaying AirPods Max here. Okay, and then when it comes to laptop, you can see that XPS 17 is the most expensive with $2,500. Okay, so that is what is getting displayed under corresponding to every record. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, now is this clear? Okay, this is pretty simple. The tricky thing happens when we come to the next function. But is this clear? Any questions about this? I hope by now you should be comfortable with when I say a window, when I say a partition, when you need to segregate the data or do some calculation for each partition, how we do that. All of this should be pretty clear for you guys. If you have been part of my class or if you have watched the recording, then I think this should be pretty clear. Any questions? Okay, this data set is something newly that I created. Let me share this data set if you want. Okay, if anyone wants to create it, let me share this data set. This one crosses 1,000 characters. So let me split it. Yes, I sent half of the data set there and remaining half I send it here. Okay, so anyone who wants to use the data set, you can use it. Okay, uh, so now this is fine. So you had a requirement for under each record, you wanted to display the most expensive product corresponding to each record, and you did that easily by using the first value function. Okay, now let's say you have another requirement. Okay, and your another requirement is something like this. Okay, now along with the most expensive product. So let's say write a query to display the least expensive product. Okay, so I'll tell most and least expensive product. Okay, so both. Okay, now in this case, can anyone tell me which function can I use? Order by ascending, fine. Okay, so I can use last value to fetch the least expensive product, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll just copy the same query because it's almost the same, right? So I'll just paste it here. And what I'll do here is I'll still have the first value because this is the most expensive product. And then here I will use something called as a last value because last value, as the name suggests, it's kind of does the opposite. First value will go to the very first record of your window or your partition and fetches the any column value from that very first record. Last value goes to the very last record of your partition or your window and fetches any column value from that particular last record. Okay, so that is what last value is, and here I can just tell least expensive product. Okay, now why I can call this like least expensive product is because I have sorted each of that product based on the price in descending order. So the one with the highest price is at the top, one with the least price is at the bottom. Okay, Now if I run this, you can see that I'm getting the data, there is no error. But can you guys tell me if this output is correct? Anyone? Just look at the data one by one and tell me if the output is correct. Okay, so the output is not correct. Can you tell me it's still giving expensive product? Okay, so the output is not correct, right? Something weird is happening. Ideally, whatever I explained for last value, it looks like last value is actually not doing that. Yeah, they asked price, it's replicating product name. Okay, so even when I got started with window function, when I looked at it, right, it took me a long time to realize what is actually happening, because as per the documentation, least value should do what it is sorry, last value should do what it is supposed to do, right? It should ideally for each window. So earphone, one window is created for the all the records belonging to earphone, right? And under this particular earphone window, the very last record is this one, right? Galaxy Buds Live, which is of $170. So here it should always print Galaxy Buds Live, right? But looks like what is getting displayed here is completely different. Okay, the reason why this is happening is something called as the current frame, okay, or the default frame that is used uh, by SQL. Okay, so I told you that whenever you run a query, okay, so for example, when I run a select star from product, or it can be any other query, when you get this whatever data that you get, right, this whole thing is called as a result set. This we can call it like a result set. Okay, and since here I do not have any window functions or anything, basically for SQL, this entire result set is one window. Okay, whatever calculations or aggregations or whatever it needs to do, it will do it on this one window. Okay, but then we can ask SQL to create multiple windows and to apply a particular function or processing specific to each window by using this partition by clause within the window function. Okay, so by using this partition by clause, I can tell SQL to create multiple windows. So initially we had one result set for the entire row. Okay, but using partition by, I can create multiple windows based on whatever column that you have given. Okay, but then there is another subset. Okay, the another subset is something called as a frame. Okay, so frame clause. Okay, so if I have to highlight, right, so I can just tell that entire result set. Okay, and then you can create a subset. Okay, you can basically create a window. Okay, multiple windows using partition by clause. Okay, and then we have frames. Okay, so this is kind of like, so you have the entire result set is one window. We can create multiple windows using partition by, but even inside each of this window, we can create frames. Okay, and that is by using the frame clause. Okay, now why I'm getting the wrong output here is because of a concept that SQL uses, that is the default frame clause. Okay, now by default, the default frame clause is something called as range between unbounded preceding and current row. Okay, now whatever I have mentioned here, right, this thing is basically a default clause that is used by SQL when it is using a window function. Okay, especially for certain type of window functions. So in this case, last value. Okay, so if I have to copy this same query here, okay, and if I have to write it here, okay, so I have this. So let's, in order to just make it more neater, right, I'll just split it in multiple columns. So here I'll just tell, okay, okay, so my overclass here. Now I'm just going to copy this whole line, okay, and I'm going to put it here. Okay. Now the thing is, whenever you say something as a default thing, okay, it is something that even if you don't mention it, internally SQL is doing it. Okay. So this default frame clause, what it means is, whenever you are using a over clause here, okay, even though I have not mentioned a frame clause, by default SQL is using this frame clause. And what this frame clause basically means is, it's telling within your partition or within your window, process only the rows which falls within this default frame. Okay. How do you identify a default frame? It is range between unbounded preceding. Unbounded preceding means anything before the current row, that is anything starting from the very first record of your window. Okay. Anything starting from the very first record of your partition. Okay. And current row. Current row means your current processing row. Okay. So if I execute this, the output is still the same. Okay. So when I execute this query here, okay, you can see I'm getting the same output. Maybe you can just focus on the earphone records, AirPods Pro, WF, this Sony, this one, Buds Pro and Buds Live. And when I execute this query here, I have added this default frame clause. Now also you can see the output is exactly the same. Okay. So what this means is, whether I add this default frame clause in my query or whether I don't add it, the SQL is internally using this frame clause. Okay. So what this basically tells SQL is, whenever you are processing a record, so let's say I have told you previously that when SQL is doing some processing, it starts from the very first record that it gets in its result set, right? So here it starts the processing. Okay. So for this most expensive product, what it will do is, it will get access to all the records within that partitions. Okay. So it will basically fetch the most expensive, okay, so it will, okay, so let me take back what I said. Okay. Whenever first value or last value gets processed, when the very first record is getting processed, okay, what happens is, SQL will come to this record. By default it is going to apply this frame clause. So it checks this row needs to be in between the unbounded preceding and the current row. Unbounded preceding is the very first record from your window. Okay. So the very first record from your window is basically this record itself, because your window is starting from here itself, right? And then the current row. Current row is again this row. Okay. So within this row, SQL is going to fetch what is the first value and what is the last value. So the first value in this row is again AirPods Pro, because AirPods Pro is the max, is the one with the highest price, right? And then when it comes to the last value, even though within this window, the last value should have been the record number 4, but currently when SQL is processing, SQL only has access to the frame that is within, basically the frame that is the current default frame. Okay. So even though we have created a window for these 4 records, SQL can only access one frame at a time. And the frame by default will only be this one, that is between your first row of your window and the current row. Okay. So when SQL is processing the first record, it only has access to the first record. Okay. Even though your window has 4 records, your frame is only looking at the very first record. Okay. So within this first record, the first value will be AirPods Pro and the last value will also be AirPods Pro, because the last record in that frame is again this only record, that is AirPods Pro. Okay. When the second record gets processed, in this case what happens is, SQL has access to 2 records in the frame. Okay. Because the frame is telling unbounded preceding. Unbounded preceding means the very first record from your window, and current row. Current row means second row. Okay. So the first SQL, this current frame will have access to 2 rows. Okay. So in these 2 rows, the max value is again AirPods Pro. So that is why it's displaying properly. But the minimum value in this case, out of 280 and 250, the last record in these 2 frames is this one, right? The Sony WF 1000 XM4, and that is what it is getting displayed. When SQL goes to processing the third record, in this case, the frame that SQL is able to access is between unbounded preceding, that is very first record of the window, and the current row. The current row is the third record. So 1, 2, and 3. It has access to 3 records now. And in this 3 record, it's going to check what is the first value. First value is again AirPods Pro, and the last value is this one, Galaxy Buds Pro. Okay. And then when it comes to the fourth record, in this case, the even now the window and the frame both will have access to the same number of records, that is all the 4 records. Okay, and that is why in these 4 records it's going to check the least value to be Galaxy Buds Live, and the correct value is only displayed here. Okay, now you will better understand this when I do a one change. Okay, so for example, let's say I will copy this and I'll paste it here again. Okay, least expensive product, I'll tell correct one. Okay, and here, so by default the frame clause is SQL will only have access to the frame that is from the very first record of your window and the current row. But I can change this current row. I can remove the current row and make it like unbounded following. Okay, unbounded following basically means until the last record of your window or until the last record of your partition. Okay, so now when SQL is processing the very first record, since here I have told unbounded following, so the frame in this case will basically have all the 4 records. Okay, because unbounded preceding means first row of your window, unbounded following means until the last row of your window. So in this case, this particular frame will have all the records of your window. Okay, and from all the records of your window, when SQL is going to look for the last value, it should be able to access this Galaxy Buds Live. Okay, so now let's execute this, and now you can see this last column that is created here. Here you can see that the last value is basically fetching the correct record, right? So how did this happen? Because of this default frame clause. Okay, so here manually I have changed the default frame. By default, the frame clause is always accessing the first record of your partition until the current row. Okay, so depending on what record you are processing, only those records SQL is able to access, because the frame only has access to those records. But I can change what the frame can access by changing the values here. Here I can make it unbounded following, means every record until the last record of your partition should be included in your frame. And once a record is available in the frame, then window function will be able to access it. So in other words, window function, previously I told you that window function will apply the whatever the function processing for each window, right? But that is true, but that can be modified by using frame clause. Okay, so a window function is applied for each window, but within each window, how many records are actually accessed by the window function is determined by the frame clause. By default, the frame clause always accesses the first record of the window until the current row, but I can change that by telling SQL to refer to the very first record of the window until the last record of the window. And once I do that, then this whole last value function will be able to access all the records within that window, and then from all the records from that window, it is able to access the last value in that window. Okay, is this clear? Okay, it's little, I think, difficult to explain, but did you get an idea? Okay, frame, anyone confused? Because the table is first based on expense intent, I think. So there's no frame there when we don't have window functions. So this frame clause is only applicable to window functions. Okay. Frame clause is supported in every RDBMS as far as I know. So for the last value also, it's giving the first value. Okay. Okay. Then how does first value handle? Okay. So Murli, good question from Murli. Where did that go? How did this problem not happen for first value? So this is what Murli is wondering. Can anyone explain? Here you can see that I have this last value with a default frame and it's throwing wrong data. When then I corrected the frame clause to access all the records within that window, then it's showing the correct data. But why did last value not have this problem? Can anyone guess it? Why did last value not have this issue? What are the window function is under applicable with frame clause range between? What are the window functions? Okay, that one I will explain, Ramesh. It's the original frame. We are looking. Is this really used in real life? Yes, this is used in real life problem. Okay, frame clause is actually used in real projects. Okay, the only thing is, if you have never heard of frame clause, you will never be able to solve this problem, because you will have no idea why last value is not working. And it's not just last value; there are some other window functions as well. Okay. Mm, okay. So description clause. Okay. Uh, but it's not even going to the last value in the second case, as the window is reduced. Okay, so I think Suraya, you're explaining to someone else. Okay, that's fine. Descending clause. Already ordering with higher on top, so the frame is always, yes, right. Okay, so to answer Murli answered his question himself. Okay, the first value will not have this problem is because the first value is already getting the correct value at the very first record of the partition, and by default window functions, using the default frame clause, they will have access to the very first record of the each window, and the first value only wanted to access that very first record of that window. So that is why it's not having any issues. Okay. um, okay, so I hope this is clear. Okay. uh, if we order by ascending for least value, will it work? Okay, it should work, right, Yoga? So let's try to do that. Okay, so let's try to do that. One thing, I'll do one thing, I'll just copy the same thing. Okay, and I'll paste it here. Okay, least value, and I'll remove the default frame clause. Okay, and here I'll tell product, and maybe in ascending. Okay, some weird names I'm giving, but I hope you understand. So here you're telling partition by product category, order by this one, and I'll tell this way. Okay, because I wanted to fetch the least expensive product, right? So now if I execute this, it's it's fetching me the data, but you can see here, so the correct value is Galaxy Buds Live. Okay, so since I am doing an ascending order here, so I'll my last value will only be able to access the very first record. So initially it's having Galaxy Buds Live. Okay, but then when it comes to here, okay, now can you tell me what is happening here? Who asked this question? Okay, Yoga. So Yoga, can you tell me, here I'm getting the wrong output, right? Can you guess why can you think and explain why you're getting the wrong output here? What is happening? Yeah, Shiva, that keyword is same across all the RDBMS. The syntax is the same. Yoga, any idea? Why you said that for this last value we can use, what happens if we use the order by ascending order, right? Okay, so you did not get the idea, so let's explain again. What is happening here? Here I have not given any frame clause. I have not mentioned a frame clause, right? If I don't mention a frame clause, by default SQL is going to consider the default frame clause. What is default frame clause? Default frame clause allows window function to access only the current frame. Okay, what is the current frame? Current frame by default is the current record that it is processing, right? So for the very first record, it is a current record it is processing. So in the very first record, the least value here is Galaxy Buds Live, so it's accessing the last value will be the, because it's only one record, whether last value or first value, it will be the same. Okay, but when I process the second record, here the frame will have access to the first two records, right? The from the very first record of the partition until the current record. The current record is the record 2. So within these two record, the last value will go to the last record and fetch the value, that is Galaxy Buds Pro, and that is why it's printing here, right? Galaxy Buds Pro. When it goes to the third record, the frame will have access to three records now, and in this three record, the last value will fetch the last value function will fetch the value from the last record within that frame. That is this Sony WF1000XM4, and that is what it is getting displayed. Okay, so that is why this order by ascending here will not work properly, but I can fix that by using the frame clause, right? So range between unbounded preceding and unbounded following. Okay, now let me run this. Now, okay, now also it's not working fine. The thing is, last value will fetch. Okay, if last value will fetch the last record from each partition, right? Here, since I did an order by price in ascending order, AirPods Pro is having the last value, but rather instead of using the last value here, if I had used the first value, okay, so if I had used the first value, then I think it will work. Okay, so basically, if I can do this in multiple different ways. Okay, so I think in this case I don't even need the frame clause. Okay, so for example, let's say if I remove this, and I'll remove the frame clause, because for first value you generally don't need, it's not going to get impacted by a frame clause. Okay, so let's run this. Now also I'm getting the correct output. Okay, so in order to fetch the least expensive product, I have written, okay, so I have written four different functions here. Okay, uh, I have done that using first value. Okay, by sorting the data in ascending order of the price, then also it works. I don't even need to use the frame clause. Okay, but if I'm using last value, then I need to use the proper frame clause. Okay, then it works. Is this clear? I'm going to share this query with you guys. You try to have a look at it and try to play around, make some changes in the frame clause and etc. Okay, and then see how it works. Okay, can you solve this problem using joints? You can solve it using joints. Okay, Um you can use the max functions, you can use a subquery, but I think this is the best approach. Okay, so I'll give you an assignment. Okay, I actually had that an assignment. Okay, so let's see if you can do this. Okay, this is my assignment. Okay, okay. Uh, Solve the above query use without using window function. Okay, can you anyone, maybe you can give it to, you can solve it today and you can give it tomorrow. Okay, so whatever problem that you have solved, right, find the max value and the minimum value, sorry, the find the most expensive product and the least expensive product, can you solve it using without using window function? Okay, so just try it out and see how you can fix it. Okay, how you can do it. How can there be same alias between multiple lines? A same alias between multiple lines. Are you talking about here? It does not matter, right? What is alias? Two people can have same name, right? So you can call two people with the same nickname, right? That's the same concept. Okay. This is the same query, and here I'm just giving an alias here. Okay, this is not a good practice. It's a very very bad practice. Okay, but here I was just trying to explain you the concept, so I have the same alias. Okay, but alias is just a nickname. It's not going to have any issues. I think someone asked a question in the Telegram group about I was using a union clause and I was giving the same alias, and I think someone else already answered that. Okay, saying that because they were fetching the same data and we wanted all the users to be tagged under the same users column, I gave the same alias. Okay, so this is not a problem. Okay, it will be long. Yes, it. I think this query would be slightly bigger than this query because here it is pretty straightforward, right? Generally, just use a function and we're getting the output. But without using a window function, I think you will need to do a little bit more processing here. Okay, so the query might be little bigger. Okay, but it will be a good practice. Let's see who can solve this. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So okay, so I'll explain this. Then I'll come to I'll tell you what are the window functions where frame clause is required. Okay, so let's look at this problem first, and then I'll come to that. Write a query to display the second most expensive product under each category. Can anyone tell how can I solve this problem? What is that concept in SQL I can use to solve this problem? Anyone? This particular problem. Write a query to display the second most expensive product under each category. Okay, max, rank, nth value, rank, nth value. Okay, so the thing is, let's do one thing. I will copy this query. Okay, and I'll put it here. Okay, and I'll just make it a little neat. Okay. So I have this query here, which is basically returning the most expensive product and the least expensive product. Okay, here it is wrong. Let me add a frame clause range between unbounded preceding and bounded preceding and unbounded following. Okay, and now let me run this. Now I'm getting the proper output, most expensive and the least expensive product. But let's say now you have a requirement where you need to fetch the second most expensive product. Okay, what this means is you need to go into your each category. Okay, under each category the second most expensive product, here it is this one, Sony WF 1000 XM4. Under headphones the second most expensive product would be again Sony WH 1000 XM4. Under laptop, the second most expensive product would be Dell XPS 15, and so on and so forth. Okay, so whenever you have a requirement where within a window or within a partition you want to fetch the data from some, like maybe second or third or something like that, right? In that case we have a function called as nth value. We can use that. So what I can do is I can just tell nth value. Okay, here again I need to mention the column which I want to display, so I'll say product name. Okay, but addition to that, I also have another argument. For this first value and last value, they only had one argument. But when it comes to nth value, they will have two arguments. The first argument is basically the column that you want to display. The second is basically uh, how many, which record, okay, whether second record or you want to access the fourth record in your window or fifth record in your window, what you want to access, that you want to mention here. Okay, so I'll just tell two because I want to access the second most expensive product, right? And then I again need to use the over clause. I need to do the partition by product category. Okay, and then order by price in descending order, right? And then here I can just call it like, let's say, as I'll just move this to the next line, as second most expensive product. Okay, so now if I run this, now you can see that I'm getting the data, but can anyone tell me if this data is correct for this new column, second most expensive product? Do you think this data is correct? No? Okay, so Adam already shared a query and he has used a frame clause. Okay, what happens if you have only one record? We'll see that, James. Um Need frame clause, right? So this data is wrong because let's only look at the earphone category. Under earphone category, the second most expensive product is WF 1000 XM4. Here, everywhere it should have displayed WF 1000 XM4. It's displaying for three records, but the first record it is getting as null. The reason why it is getting as null is initially SQL will process the first record. So the frame, because I have not mentioned any frame here, the default frame will only have access to the first record of the window until the current row. So only the first record will be within the frame. Okay, and within that frame, when SQL is going to apply this nth value, the second value, basically there is only one record. So if it's going to look for the second value, there is no second value. So by default, it is going to print as null. Okay, that is why it is printing null. Now, when it goes to the second record, the frame will get access to these two records, right? And within these two records, the second value is WF 1000 XM4. So that is what it is getting displayed, right? When it goes to the third record, the frame will get access to three records, right? Within those three records, the second value, the value from the second record is again this WFXM4. That is what it is getting displayed. And the same thing happens in record 4. Okay. Now, how we can fix this is again by using the same frame clause here, that is this one, range between unbounded preceding and unbounded following. Okay, now if I run this, now you can see I'm getting the proper output. Okay, so everything what I explained that time, I'm getting the proper output. Okay, so this is what nth value does. Okay, I hope this is clear. And to answer James question, if you don't find a second record, by default it will print null. Okay, I think here I can also give a third argument telling that no value. Okay, something. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, so I'll do one thing here, because I have range function does not exist, nth value character. Okay, so maybe third argument is not allowed. Okay, only two argument. Let me just check. Okay, I don't remember how many arguments the nth value has. I have a documentation with all this window function arguments. Let me just look 1 minute. Okay, so for nth value, okay, so nth value only has two arguments, no third argument. Okay, so basically, if you try to fetch a record which does not exist, it's by default it's going to return a null. Okay, so that's what it is. And there's one more thing that I want to explain here. That is, when it comes to this window function, sorry, this frame clause, right? There are different variations we can do. Okay, so for example, uh, unbounded preceding and unbounded following basically means the very first record, from the very first record of your window until the very last record of your window. Okay, but I can also change it. Okay, so I can also change it to something like, let's say, instead of unbounded, this one, so I'll just create another variations to frame clause. Okay, so here the same query, instead of mentioning unbounded means like from the very beginning. Okay, or in this case until the very, basically the last record. Instead of unbounded preceding, I can just mention, let's say, any integer values, like let's say two preceding and two following. So this means two records prior to the like two records prior to the current row and two records after the current row. Okay, so now if I execute, I think the output will be wrong. Okay, but you can, I just wanted to show you that you can do this. Okay, so in this case, when the record is getting processed, it will look for two records prior to the current row. There is no two record prior to the current row because this is the very first record. Okay, so there will be nothing. Okay, but it will get access to records prior to the current row until the current row. Okay, so where it is, this is this one, right? Least value. Okay, so here it will basically print that same current row record. Okay, and two records after the following the current row, that is until here. So the current frame will have access to these three records. Okay, so I hope you understand that. But basically, I have never actually used like this. If I'm ever in a need to use a frame clause, I will always use this unbounded preceding and unbounded following. But I'm just telling that you can do this. Okay, but more important than this, there is um, another variation that you can do, and that is, instead of range, I can mention something called as rows. Okay, so let's try to do that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to write a sample query here. Okay, and I'll remove all of this nth value. Too many things might confuse. I'll just include this last value here, and I'll just say unbounded. Okay, and what I want to do is, okay, so let me take one. I'll just filter the data for one particular product. Okay, so I'll just tell product category equal to phone. Okay, so that it becomes easier for me to explain. Uh, yeah, so I have 10 records here. Okay, now if you look carefully here, so I'm getting the least expensive product, and okay, Should I use this? Okay, so let me just tell you. So here I have this, and I'll create another one. And instead of range, I'll give rows. Okay. And now let me execute this. I'm just thinking, how can I explain this? So let's do one thing. Okay, I don't remember how I can show you an example here. Okay, so what range and the difference between range and rows is, um, basically they do kind of the same thing. There is only one difference. The only one difference happens when you have duplicate values. Okay, in this particular data here, okay, you can see here, Galaxy Z Flip 3, iPhone 12, and S21 are having the same price, 1000 each. Okay, so when I tell a range, okay, range between, so when I tell SQL to consider a frame which ranges between unbounded preceding and unbounded following, if there are, like, let's say, duplicate values, or basically the same value within a particular record, the range will consider all the values. So all the records with the same value will be considered. Okay, but rows will only consider this one, that is the current row. Okay, so here what I need to do is not unbounded following, I need to say current. Okay, so I'll just do that here. Okay, and now let me execute this. Okay, so I think now this is what I wanted to explain it to you. You ignore about all these records, you only consider these three records. Okay, so here I will just tell this is my range. Okay, and this is rows. Okay, and let's execute this. So you see here, everything else is the same. Okay, the only difference between range and rows will happen when there are same values. Okay, so if there are same values in whatever the data based on which you have done your sorting, okay, in that case range will consider the entire range of rows, okay, with that same value. Okay, so what is last value? It goes to the last record of your frame or your window and then fetches the value from the very last record, right? In this case, when SQL was processing the record number 5, okay, so when it was processing the record number 5, you can see that the value is 1000. Okay, so let's say SQL has come until this stage. Okay, now it is in processing the record number 5, and the basically the range, what it will do is, it should basically, because here you can see it is unbounded proceeding and unbounded proceeding and current row, right? So the current row should be Galaxy Z Flip 3, right? So the last row should actually okay, here, not here, the range one, the last row here should actually print Galaxy Z Flip 3, but it is printing Galaxy S21, that is from here. Why? Because here I have used range. So what range will do is, if there are same values, even though it is only having access until the current row, but since that same value, the same value is also repeated in the next two records, the range will look for the next two record as well. So within this range, whatever the last value is, that is Galaxy S21, that is what is getting displayed here. Okay, but when it comes to rows, it will strictly look only for that current row. Okay, it does not care if there are duplicate values or not. Okay, and that is why when SQL is processing record number 5, the rows will display the Galaxy Z Flip 3. When it goes to the record number 6, it will display iPhone 12, and when it goes to record number 7, it display Galaxy S21. Okay, so this can be, if you are attending an interview for 2+ years of experience, and let's say if I was an interviewer, this is a question that I would ask. Okay, maybe not for freshers, okay, but for someone, if I generally what I would do is I'd ask a question: do you know window functions? And if he tells yes, then I will ask him what is a frame clause. Okay, then if he tells yes, he explains a frame clause, then I will tell him what is the difference between range and row. Okay, so that is why I wanted to show you here. There is only one difference, and the difference happens when there are multiple records with the same value. Range will consider all the records within that range, okay, with that same value. But row will only consider the current row that it is processing. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Okay, and there can be certain cases in when you're working on real project, you might come across this kind of scenarios. Okay, it's always good to know a concept, because when you come across that situation, you kind of will have a memory that, oh, someone had once explained me that there is something called as range and rows, and then you can try it out, right? I hope this helps. Why should we use rows and not range? Okay, good question from Abhi. And the thing is, I always use range. Okay, I never use row. I have never come across a scenario where I had to use row, but I know that if SQL has created difference between range and row, there must be a reason for it, right? I have just not come across that reason in my project, but maybe you might come across that in scenario where when you are processing, if there are you should be ignoring the duplicate records. In that case, you may have to use rows. Okay, so it's not an iteration. It's just like what is accessed by the frame clause when each record is getting processed. Okay, so the frame clause is very important for certain window functions. Okay, so and the frame clause data can vary depending on range and rows if there are duplicate records. Okay, so that is what you need to remember. Is it clear? Did frame clause confuse you guys, or did you get some understanding? I'm not sure, Ramesh. If you can, I don't think so. Negative values should be allowed because it does not make sense, right? One means it is going for the previous record. So what is -1? I don't think so. It is allowed. Okay, let me try. Even I am not sure if it works or not. Let me just put a -2 here, and let's see if it works. Invalid preceding. Okay, so it is not allowed. So it's telling it's an invalid number. So only positive numbers, because it does not make sense, right, to have a negative number. Where is the frame clause? Where is the frame clause? This is the frame clause. So it's just a clause that we mention for SQL to tell within the frame what are the records it can access. We need to do more practice. Absolutely. If you don't practice, you won't remember after 2 days. Maybe 2 days you'll remember. After 2 weeks, you won't remember if you don't practice. The syntax is same across all the RDBMS. Okay. Okay, fine. So I think I'm done with window functions for now. Okay. Now there are three other window functions. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to explain that, because the main reason is most of the time we never use those window function. There are very specific cases where you can use it. Okay, but rather what I will do is I'll give you these uh, window functions. I'll just paste some queries that I have. Okay, I'm just going to mention it here, and I'll leave it to you. Okay, to learn it yourself. I have created a YouTube function, YouTube video. I'm not sure if anyone has seen. I have created two YouTube videos on window function, part one and part two. In the part two, I have covered all of this. Okay, you can actually go and watch my YouTube video. I think they have pretty good. Many people have liked them, so I think you should also benefit from that. And then you can understand these three functions. I just don't want to explain them because in my 13 years of career, I have never come across a scenario where I had to use this. Okay, and from what I have seen from my colleagues also, very rarely they have used it. Okay, so it's good to know, but I don't think so you will be using it a lot. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is I have just pasted the window functions here with some sample queries here, and also the formulas what they actually do. Okay, you can refer to the in the note section. So I'll just mention it here. The below three window functions um, rarely used. Okay, so Okay. So I think that's all. So this is all what I wanted to explain about window function. Let me just save it into the notes file for today so I don't lose this. Just a minute. This is session 16, right? Okay. Okay, fine. So I think I'm done with window functions for now. The next thing that I want to take up is basically pivot table and recursive SQL queries. But I think I will take up, and also I want to cover some inbuilt functions. Okay. But before I go into that, I want maybe today's session, we just have half an hour more. I want to be showing you the solutions to the SQL assignment that I had given in the last class. Okay. So YouTube link in the Telegram. Okay, I will share it. Okay, please link. Is XML? XML is not a window function. XML is a file, right? Uh, have you never seen an XML file? You can just Google it. XML is a file with tags and everything, so you can see that. For some of your assignment topic has already solved on YouTube. I think that we should solve problem here and solve on YouTube. Are you sure? The assignments I have not solved on. Okay, so the IPL. So IPL and some of them, yes, I have. And I think when I announced the class, right, I had told that uh, some of the queries that I will be using in the class will be some that I have used in my YouTube. Okay, so and as far as I see, maybe two queries were what I have done in my YouTube. Others I have not. But uh, how does it actually cause a problem? I'm not sure. I have a clarification. Range frame clause is working without order by in the over clause. I have a clarification. Range frame clause is working without order by in the frame clause. I think you can try it out, Ramesh. I think you can use, probably you can use. Let me try, okay? I don't remember. If he's basically Ramesh is asking if we can use frame clause without the order by clause, right? So let's see. Because order by is just going to sort the data. Even if you don't sort the data, by default, SQL is going to sort the data in some random order, right? So I think this frame clause should still work without order by clause, okay? But let's just try it out. I'll just comment out this order by clause and let's see if this works. Still works, but the output may not be correct because the sorting SQL is doing sorting randomly. So it still works. Okay, to answer your question. Um, Adam, I will still be using some queries that I have used in my YouTube. Okay, but not most of them. Okay, just some of them which I think are really good queries. Okay, so now what I want to ask is which assignment that you. Okay, first of all, has everyone tried to solve the assignment? There were six assignments given in the last two sessions. Has everyone tried all the six assignment? Is there anyone who got answer to all the six? That would be great. Is there anyone who got solution to all the six assignment problems? Anyone? Um, I am having trouble in acceptance rate problem. Acceptance rate. Okay, acceptance rate problem. Okay, rest I got it. Okay, so looks like Jay and Bhavesh were able to solve the five problems, but only one problem trouble. What about others? Is there any SQL query that you found issues? I think the first problem is the acceptance, right? Okay, so Yoga tells the IPL problem. What about others? So I get some responses about. So everyone is only interested in the acceptance rate problem. Any other problem? Okay, IPL problem. Any other problem? Time manipulation. What is time? Was there a problem for time manipulation? Which was time manipulation? I don't remember. What is time manipulation? Amazon transaction. Okay, so the active user, the returning active users, right? Okay. Um, okay, fine. So let's do one thing. I'm going to start with, I tried but not getting the correct output. Okay, fine. So let's start with the acceptance rate problem. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this entire data set here. Just open a new window, maybe. Sorry. Okay, so the problem states acceptance rate by date. First of all, let me create the table so we can see the data. Yes. Okay. So this table has 12 records and you have an user ID sender. It is Facebook friend request. So there is a sender, there is a receiver, the date when the request was sent, and what was the action, whether the friend request was. So this is for sent and this is for accepted, right? Now let's try to understand the query. What is the overall friend acceptance rate by date? Okay, your output should have the rate of acceptance by the date the request was sent, order by the earliest date to the latest. Assume that each friend starts by a user sending, that is a user ID sender, a friend request to another user. Okay, so this person will send a friend request to this person. Okay, that's logged in the table with the action sent. Okay, so that means uh, this record here basically means that a friend request was sent. Okay, and then if the request is accepted, the table logs action equal to accepted. If the request is not accepted, then the number of action, no record of action equal to acceptance is logged. Okay, so what this means is, this is a Facebook user, this is another Facebook user. This user sends a request to this user. How do we know he has sent a request? By using this column, that is action. Okay, if it is sent, that means an request, friend request was sent. Okay, if it is accepted, that means the friend request was accepted. Okay, and here it is on which day the friend request was sent and on which day the friend request was accepted. Okay, what we need to do is, we need to find the friend acceptance rate. Okay, your output friend acceptance rate. So this means friend acceptance rate should have the rate of acceptance by date the request was sent. Okay, so for each day they want to know what was the friend acceptance rate. Can anyone tell me what would be the formula for friend acceptance rate? Anyone? How can I calculate the friend acceptance rate? Any idea? Difference number of requests sent by accepted. Okay, so right, so number of requests sent by accepted or the other way around. Okay, so I think number of requests sent by accepted probably, right? So let's try to solve this problem. Now the thing is, what is the concept in SQL we will need to use to solve this problem? Can anyone tell what are the different concepts in SQL we'll need to use to solve this problem? So you face a problem. First thing, think how can you solve it. So what do you think? How can you solve it? What is it? What are the things that you need to use to solve this problem? Anyone? CTE. Okay, fine. Anything else? Case when. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? What do you guys think? Group by. Okay. Count. Okay. First group by and then count. Okay. I'm trying to see who is having the right thinking here. Okay. Who can think? This problem can be solved in many different ways, of course, but um, there is a pattern here. Using that pattern, you can actually identify what concept you can use. Can anyone tell me what pattern do you see here when you look this kind of problem? Send and not accepted should be given as zero. Send accepted. Okay, so so basically, okay. So first of all, let me write the formula here. Okay, This is my table. Okay, and let's try to split this query into few different parts. Okay, so my intention is I need to find the acceptance rate. Okay, acceptance rate is equal to uh, total number of requests, okay, divided by number of accepted request. Can I tell this formula? Right, so total number of friend request, total number of friend request divided by number of accepted friend request, right? Should it be reverse? That's what I'm confused. So let's say, okay, before even I explain this, let's look at the data. Okay, so here you can see that this two users, the sender ID is the same, this receiver ID is the same. So that means this person sent a request on 4th Jan 2020. Okay, and it was accepted, right? And first of all, we only need to consider those requests whose request was sent and accepted. If there is a friend request that was sent but never accepted, then we cannot treat that friend requested as accepted, right? So here I can tell that on 4th of Jan, one friend request was accepted. So maybe I'll just put it here. So I'll just tell 04 Jan, okay, 04 Jan, one request was sent, okay, and sent, and then it was one, uh, yeah, so this was sent plus accepted. Okay, and on then I have, okay, these two records are basically sent and accepted, and then here I have another one that is the same. You can see that it's the same user sender ID and the same receiver ID, and again it was sent on 4th. Okay, so here I can tell 1 plus 1 2, right? So two users sent a request on 4th June and it was sent and accepted. Okay, then comes here. So here this particular sender has sent a request, but this particular user does not have any other record here, so that means he only sent it. Okay, so on 04 Jan, one sent but not accepted. Okay, so this is for, I'll just put it here. Okay, that is for this record. And then comes the next record here. Here you can see this same sender has, it's the same sender, same receiver, sent and accepted. That means this request was sent on 6th Jan, 06 Jan. Okay, one sent, I'll tell, and accepted. Okay, so I'll just tell sent and accepted. Okay. Okay, so this is for this, and then comes the next two records here. Okay, so this is again the same sender and the same receiver. It's for 4th Jan. Okay, so looks like for 4th Jan again it is three. So three people send the request and all the three were accepted. Okay, and then comes the next record here. That is this particular user. You can see he has no other entry in this table, and that means on 4th there were two more that was sent but not accepted, right? And then on 6th, you can see that the same sender and the same receiver, okay, it is accepted. So on the 6th, two of the requests were sent and both were accepted. Okay, so this one I'm just looking at the data and trying to understand what I need to do. From here, I can tell that on 4th Jan, there were three friend requests accepted, and on 6th Jan, there were two friend requested sent and accepted. Okay, but on 4th Jan, there were two. So 1 minute, this one, okay, so this particular thing that was sent but was never accepted was actually not on 4th Jan, but it was on 6th Jan. Okay, so what here I need to do is, so 6th Jan, this is 1 cent and 1 cent. Okay, so looks like totally on 4th Jan, four friend requests were sent. Three of them got accepted. One is not accepted because you don't see a record for that in this table. Okay, so that is for this particular sender and receiver. Only sent is there, but there is no record with accepted. Okay, and the same way for 6th Jan, two of the requests were accepted, sent and accepted, but there was one request which was sent but never accepted. Okay, and that is, I think, this particular record here. The use sender has sent a request to a receiver, but there is only one record with sent. There is no other record with accepted. Okay, we can tell a friend request to be accepted if it should have both the records. So it should have a record with sent and it should have a record with accepted. Okay, so now I need to find two things. Okay, my ultimate goal is to find the acceptance rate. Acceptance rate is basically, I can tell that uh, total number of total number of requests sent. Okay, so for 4th Jan I can tell 4 requests were sent. Okay, and then 3 of them were accepted. Okay, so 4 divided by 3, and then if I multiply by 100, I should get 75%. So probably 75% acceptance rate. Okay, so I think this formula is correct. Okay, now I need to write a query to basically find the acceptance rate, but in order to find the acceptance rate, I first need to find the total number of friend requests and I need to find the total number of accepted friend requests, and both of these I need to find specific to each date, right? So let's see how to do that. So first of all, uh, let's try to find the total number of accepted friend requests. Okay, I hope till now you are understanding everything. Now the total number of accepted friend requests, how can I do that? Okay, if I need to find the accepted friend request, I need to have a record with sent and with accepted for the same sender and for the same receiver, right? The date does not matter. I might send a friend request today and the person might accept it 2 days later. That is still fine. That is still considered to be an accepted friend request, right? So date does not matter, but this action matters and these two matters here, right? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to first of all, in my first part, I'll try to find the total number of accepted friend requests. Okay, so first let's find this total number of accepted friend requests. So how can I find a total number of accepted friend requests? So in this particular case, I need to compare a record from this table with another record of this table. And when I'm doing this comparison, I need to make sure that the sender and the receiver are the same, and the actions are one record with sent and one record with accepted. Okay, so in other words, I need to compare the same record of this table with some other record of that same table. When you have this kind of a requirement, which concept of SQL you need to use? Anyone? Self join? Self join, right? We need to use self join. Okay, this is how you need to think, right? You first of all, you came up with the formula, then you looked at the data, you kind of got some understanding. Okay, then you split the query into multiple parts. So you take the first part here. Okay, that is, you need to find the people who accepted the friend request. In order to find that, you realize that you need to compare one record of a table with the some other record of that same table, right? In that case, lead lag you cannot do, because this record currently is here, it might have been somewhere else also, right? How many records you need to compare next, you will not know. But a better way of doing that is by using self join, right? So let's try to do that. So I'm just going to say select from this one. Okay, and I tell you, I have told you that when you're using a self join, the alias is very, very important. Okay, because alias should tell you what that table stands for, right? So I need to compare the sent record with the accepted record. So my one table is going to be my sent table and my other table is going to be my accepted table. So I'm going to give an alias similarly. So here I'll tell sent, and here I will again copy the same table, and this time I'll make it like accepted. Okay, and so I want one table to only have records from sent and the other table only to have records from accepted. Okay, in order to do that, I will put the join condition here, but before putting the join condition, let me put a filter here telling that sent dot action equal to sent. Okay, so this sent table will only have those records where the request was sent. Okay, and similarly, I can just tell where accepted dot action equal to accepted. Okay, so with this way, I'm joining the same table twice. Okay, but both this table will have different records. The sent table will only have the sent records, and accepted table will only have accepted records. Now, how do I join these two tables? I told you that the sender and the receiver should be the same, right? So I can join using these two columns. So I can just tell sent dot user ID sender equal to, just copy this, accepted dot this one, and sent dot user ID receiver. Okay, user ID receiver. So maybe I'll move this to the next line. Receiver equal to accepted dot receiver. Okay, so here I have joined these two tables because my sent and my accepted both should have the same sender and the same receiver, right? It's self-explanatory, right? If I'm sending a friend request and if someone is receiving a friend request and if he has accepted a friend request, the two user and the sent user and the receiver user both should be the same, right? So that is why I'm joining using that. And then here, this is my filter condition to segregate my self join. And here, let's say I'm going to print. What do I want to print? Okay, for now, let me just print star and let's see how many records I get. I'm getting 5 records. So if I see, okay, instead of fetching data from both the table, I'll just fetch from one. So just to make it more clear. Okay, so I fetch the data just from one table. Now we can see that on 4th Jan, this user sent the request. Okay, and where is his corresponding record? Okay, they have his corresponding record is in the accepted table, right? Okay, but anyways, what this means is on 4th Jan, 2 plus 1, 3 friend request was accepted. Okay, and on 6th Jan, 2 friend request was accepted. Okay, now this is exactly what we also got here, right? On 4th Jan, 3 were accepted and 6, 2 were accepted. Okay, but what I need is I just need the count of that number of accepted requests for each date. So what I can do is here I can just tell date. Okay, send dot date. Okay, um, comma count of 1 as of number of accepted test. Okay, and here, okay, so I need to group the data based on this date. So I'll just tell group by this. And now let me run this. Okay, so I think I have got one part of my query. That is for 4th Jan, there were 3 accepted friend requests. For 6th Jan, 2 accepted friend requests, right? Okay, so I hope you you have got this. Now let's do the second part of this query. Okay, so what is the second part of the query? We need to find the total number of friend requests. Can anyone tell me how do you identify the total number of friend requests? Anyone? What do we need to use now in order to find the total number of friend requests? Do I need to do a self join now? Where equal to sent. Okay, so good one. So if I look at the data here, now my second thing is I only need to find how many requests were sent. So I'm not bothered about if the request was accepted or not. I don't care about that, right? I only want to know for each date how many requests were sent, right? So what I can just do is I can go back here and I can filter the data based on where action equal to sent. Okay, that is action equal to sent, and then here I can just tell date and count of 1 as total request. Okay, and I can just tell group by date. Okay, so let's see if this works. So here I'm getting for 4th Jan, there were 4 requests. And is it what I got? Yeah, so 4th Jan, there were 4 requests. And for 6th Jan, there were 3 requests. That is what I got, right? So looks like I have got the 2 different parts of my query. My final part is to merge them together and then do the calculation to find the acceptance rate. Again, since these are 2 different queries, the best way to bring them together is by using CTE, right? So I'm just going to say with, and here I'm just going to say um, accepted request. Okay, as move this, and I'll copy this entire query. So I'll copy this entire query here. Okay, I'll put a comma. I'll open another with clause, and this will be, let's say, total request. Okay, so I'll just call total request as, and here I'll paste this second query. Okay, so I pasted it here, and then finally in my main query, select from. Okay, so now the question is, I'll just okay. So this query here is returning me all the friend requests accepted. This is returning me all the total number of friend requests sent. Now my intention is to basically divide this total request sent divided by the friend request accepted, right? No, no. What was it? Total, yeah, correct, right? So total friend request sent, yeah, correct. So, or I think the vice versa. Little confused. What do you guys think? Should I divide the accepted friend request divided by total number of requests, or the other way around? The other way around, right? So because total number of requests here for a date. So let's say here I'm getting 4 and this is 3. So this is not right. It will go over 100%. So that is not correct. So it should be the reverse. It should be like this. Okay. Total number of accepted requests divided by total number of requests, right? So now I need to do that calculations. But before that, these two data is scattered across these two tables. So how can I join these two tables? Can anyone tell me? What type of joins should I use? Anyone? Left join? Okay, left join. Left join, right? Okay. The correct answer is actually left join, and the reason why we should use left join is because there can be in this data you may not have that such kind of data, but there can be cases where friend request was sent on a particular day, but no friend request on that day was accepted. Okay, in that case, for that particular day, here I would have no record, but here I would still have some data, right? In that case, I still want to say that it is 0%, right? So that is why I need to have all the data from the total request. So what I need to do is I need to move this above, and here I need to say left join. Okay, or I could do right join by moving that down, but I'll do this. Okay, and here I'll just tell T. Okay, and this one I'll call it like A. Okay, and on which columns can I join? It is pretty simple, right? The only common column here is date. So I can just tell T dot date equal to A dot date. Okay. And here I need to fetch, let's say T dot date, comma, total request, right? So T dot total request divided by A dot accepted number of requests. Okay. So let me just run this for now and let's see what happens. So if I run this, I'm getting the value both as one. And this again is a problem because I think these both are integers. And yeah, I think, yeah, these both are big int. Okay. Because this count of one will return big int. But when I divide, it's basically returning me the whole number. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll convert this into a decimal. So I'll say decimal, decimal. And now let me run this. Now I'm getting, I think this is wrong, right? Total number of accepted. I changed the formula here, but I did not change it here. Okay. So this is, I did the reverse. So I need to divide the total number of accepted request divided by total number of requests. Okay. Now I think should be fine. Now I'm getting some data, 75% and 66%. But let's multiply this by 100. Multiply by 100 and then round it by, so I'll say round by 2 digits, and this will be, let's say, acceptance rate. Okay. So now if I run this, okay, so I think this is the final output that I wanted. So on 4th Jan, 75% is the acceptance rate, and 6th Jan, 66% is the acceptance rate. Okay. Is it clear? Did you guys understand this problem? And not just about the solution, but did you understand the flow of how you should be solving a problem? Uh, you can solve this problem in without using a self join in many different ways. If anyone has a different solution, you can share it with me. Okay, but I hope you understood this flow. Okay, so I am already 9 o'clock is up. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be solving any other problem. What you can do is, if other than this particular problem, if there was any other problem, okay, that you wanted me to solve, just mention me that problem name, okay, in the Telegram group, and I will try to solve it. Okay, and one more thing, I will be conducting one additional session. It's going to be I'll just add on to the current 20 sessions, so maybe the 21st session. It will be a like a Q&A session where you can ask me questions. I'll try to clarify any doubts that you might have. It would be better that you give me the questions beforehand, so that I will choose the most frequently asked questions. Okay, because I'll have 1 or 1.5 hour of sessions. If you ask me 50 questions in the session, I may not be able to solve everything. So you give me some questions beforehand. I'll try to have that session either this weekend or next weekend. Okay, so if you have any questions that I have not answered of yours, okay, in the Telegram group or here, or if there is a concept that you have not understood or a query that you have not understood, you put that in the Telegram group. Okay, and then I will try to collect them together, and I'll only answer those queries in that new special session. Okay, so I think that's all I have for today. I'm not going to be including any assignment for today's class. Okay, I will be giving you some assignment in tomorrow's class. uh, Anything else that you want to ask me? So we just want to check, we have left with only two sessions. You will be covering all the remaining topics which you listed in the class. Two sessions. We have five more sessions, right? Because today is session 16, but session 13 I had rescheduled it. So officially today is the 15th session. So you still have two more sessions this week and three more sessions next week. Okay, but let's say even by using the five sessions I'm not able to complete all the concept. Of course I will be adding new sessions to cover every concept. Okay, I will not skip any topic. Okay, if additional sessions are required, I'll add it. Okay, but I think we should be pretty good. Also, I can't log into Telegram. So Benjamin, can you do one thing? Can you message me personally in Telegram? My Telegram user ID is TechTFQ. I think using my username, you should be able to find me. Just message me, and then I will add you manually to the Telegram group. Do you have plan for database design concept like indexing, tuning? Not anytime soon, but in the future, I will be doing a performance tuning class for SQL. Discord channel, you will find it in my this one in my YouTube. Ramesh, breakfast I'll have now after this class. Uh, Next class topic is going to be okay. So I will either choose recursive SQL queries or pivot table. Okay. Or I will try to solve some SQL queries that I have given to you. Okay. And maybe I will take up some other SQL queries. Okay. So I want to have one session where I just solve like how I solve this particular problem, right? I want to have a session where I solve some SQL queries. Just to give you an idea of what your thinking should be. Okay. Because when you looked at this particular problem, I thought the problem statement was pretty confusing, right? It looked like, man, so many things to do. I don't understand what is happening. But then when I break down the problem into multiple different parts, and when you look at this query now, this looks a pretty simple query, right? Does not look that complex. Okay. So the process of how you solve a problem is more important than the uh, solution itself. In most cases, the solution is simple, but how do you arrive at that thinking? That's the important part. So maybe one session I'll try to focus on that. uh, I know many, you know what, I don't use Telegram myself. Okay, Telegram, I'm using it only for this course. And the reason why I use Telegram is, in my last cohort I used Discord. In Discord I have over 2500 people, and the problem what I faced was, in my last class I had around 150 160 people, and I was so confused, like who are, when I had a Discord, who are part of my SQL codes and who are actually part of my, like, other 2000 people who are part of my Discord. So I wanted to give priority to the people who were part of the course, but in Discord I was not able to do that. And I don't want to have a WhatsApp group, because WhatsApp I don't want. Uh, I want to use WhatsApp only with my family and friends. I don't want to involve my work and my YouTube into my YouTube in my WhatsApp. Okay, that is why I came up with what Telegram. But I think in future, Lighthall, I think they are going to have their own chat uh, app. Okay, probably in future we'll do everything in Lighthall, so I don't even have to use Telegram. Can you also teach Python one day? Yes, I want to teach Python someday, very soon. I'm having a transition of my career. I'm changing countries, so very busy, but I will be doing it once I settle in my new job. MongoDB not anytime soon, Tim. Maybe in the future. Um, Thanks, Bhavesh. Uh, Next upcoming new batch class will be on complex topics like triggers. Functions I will be covering in this course itself. Probably next week I'll cover functions and procedures. Uh, Um, and what about triggers? I don't know. Like, I don't know many people use triggers except for SQL developers. I don't think so. A lot of people use triggers. That's why I did not cover it. But maybe someday I'll make a video about that. Thank you, Suraya. Okay, so I think that's all. I see there is one question in the Q&A tab. Let's check where you have left it. Okay, so you will be in GMT zone, or um, I'm not sure, man. Like, what is a GMT zone of that particular country? Probably you'll come to know once I update in LinkedIn. Yeah, so I think that's all, everyone. So I'm going to end the class. No, not to USA, some other country. Uh, so, okay, you want this. So what I'll do is, this solution, I'll leave it here. I'll add all the solutions for all this assignment that I have given. Okay, and maybe you can refer to the solutions and you can see if your solution and my solution are the same. I'm sure they are going to be different. Okay, so then you can learn from my solution also, and if you have a different solution, a better solution, you share it with me so I can learn from your solution. Okay. uh, thank you, Kaisong. Okay, so that's all, everyone. I'll end the class now, and hey, I hope this session was recorded, right? Yeah, the session is recording. So let me stop the sharing.